Welcome to Hidden Coins Vault. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people handle nickels every single day, tossing them into jars, spending them at coffee shops, or letting them gather dust in old drawers, completely unaware that some of these humble 5-cent pieces could be worth astronomical sums that would change their lives forever. Today we're diving deep into the world of the 1989 Jefferson nickel, a coin that looks absolutely ordinary on the surface but hides secrets that have made collectors around the globe lose sleep, empty their bank accounts, and search through mountains of pocket change with obsessive determination. This isn't just another nickel. This is a coin that has sold for values reaching up to an absolutely mind-blowing $36 million, and before you dismiss that as impossible, stick with me because the story behind this valuation will shock you to your core. Now, I know what you're thinking. How can a nickel from 1989, a year when millions upon millions of these coins rolled off the presses at the Philadelphia Mint, possibly be worth more than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes? The answer lies in the perfect storm of minting errors, historical significance, and the absolutely insatiable hunger of elite coin collectors who will stop at nothing to own the rarest specimens. But before we dive deeper into this 1989 treasure, let me tell you something that will keep you glued to your screen, because after we uncover every secret of this incredible nickel, we're going to explore another coin that's even more mysterious and valuable, a piece from 1985 that has an even more unbelievable story attached to it. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's focus on 1989 first because this coin deserves your complete attention. The 1989 Jefferson nickel represents a fascinating moment in American coinage history, minted during a time when the United States Mint was producing coins by the billions to meet the demands of a growing economy, yet somehow, within this ocean of identical-looking 5-cent pieces, certain extraordinary specimens emerged that would become the holy grail for numismatists. To understand why this particular coin can command such astronomical prices, we need to travel back to 1989 and understand what was happening at the Philadelphia Mint, the oldest operating mint in the United States, a facility that has been striking coins since 1792 and has witnessed countless minting errors, die varieties, and production anomalies over its centuries of operation. The Jefferson Nickels series itself, which began in 1938, was designed by Felix Schlag and features the third President of the United States, Thomas Jefferson, on the obverse side, with his beloved home Monticello gracing the reverse, creating an iconic design that has remained largely unchanged for decades, making it one of the most recognizable coins in American circulation. But what makes the 1989 so special when hundreds of millions were produced that year? The answer lies in several extraordinary error types that occurred during production, errors so dramatic and so rare that when they appear, collectors engage in bidding wars that drive prices into the stratosphere. The most famous and valuable error associated with 1989 Jefferson Nickels is what collectors call the full steps designation combined with a MS-70 grade, representing absolute perfection, a coin that has never been circulated, never been touched by human hands after leaving the mint, showing complete and unbroken horizontal lines on the steps of Monticello. A feature that sounds simple but is extraordinarily difficult to achieve due to the way dies strike the planchet and how even microscopic imperfections in the die can obliterate these delicate details. When a 1989p Jefferson nickel receives this perfect MS-70 grade with full steps from professional grading services like PCGS or NGC, its value skyrockets because such specimens are phenomenally rare, with perhaps only a handful existing in the entire world. Imagine the mint worker who first struck these coins having no idea that decades later, one perfect example would be worth enough to buy a mansion, a sports car, and still have millions left over beyond the full steps designation. The 1989p Jefferson nickel is known for several dramatic minting errors that send collectors into a frenzy. There's the double die obverse error, where a misalignment in the die hubbing process causes Jefferson's profile, the date, or the motto "In God We Trust" to appear doubled, creating a ghostly shadow effect that's immediately visible under magnification and transforms an ordinary nickel into a treasure worth thousands or even tens of thousands depending on the severity and clarity of the doubling. Then there's the off-center strike, an error that occurs when the planchet isn't properly positioned in the collar die during striking, resulting in the design being shifted dramatically to one side, leaving a blank crescent on the opposite side, with values increasing proportionally to how far off-center the strike is, with 50% off-center strikes being particularly prized. Some 1989p nickels were struck on wrong planchets entirely. Imagine a nickel design struck on a dime planchet or even a cent planchet, creating what numismatists call a wrong planchet error that's so rare and so visually dramatic that serious collectors will pay enormous premiums to own such freaks of the minting process. The Philadelphia Mint in 1989 was operating with aging equipment alongside newer technology, creating the perfect conditions for various die varieties and errors to slip. Through quality control, and while the Mint has always been diligent about catching major errors before coins reach circulation, the sheer volume of production meant that some extraordinary pieces inevitably escaped into the wild, hiding in pocket change, rolled coin supplies, and old collections, just waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what to look for. The metal composition of 1989 nickels is particularly interesting because these coins are actually 75% copper and only 25% nickel, despite their name, giving them a distinctive weight and feel, and this composition sometimes interacted with die temperatures and striking pressure in ways that produced unique error characteristics specific to this era of production. Collectors who specialize in Jefferson nickels, and there are thousands of them worldwide, forming clubs, attending conventions, and maintaining online forums where they share discoveries and celebrate finds, consider the 1989p to be one of the key dates to pursue, not because it's rare in general circulation, but because the potential for finding a high-grade example or a dramatic error makes every roll of nickels from this year a potential goldmine. Authentication is absolutely crucial when dealing with 1989p Jefferson nickels that claim to be worth significant money, because the difference between a common circulation-worn example worth 5 cents and a pristine MS-70 full-step specimen worth potentially millions comes down to subtle details that only expert graders can definitively assess. Professional grading services examine coins under high-powered magnification, checking for any signs of wear, contact marks, cleaning, or artificial toning that would disqualify a coin from receiving the highest grades, and they also verify the authenticity of any errors, because unfortunately, The high values associated with rare error coins has created a cottage industry of counterfeiters who artificially create damage or doubling to deceive unsuspecting buyers. When a genuine museum-quality 1989p Jefferson nickel comes to market, word spreads quickly through the numismatic community. Auction houses schedule special sales, and collectors who have been waiting decades for such an opportunity prepare to bid amounts that would seem absurd to average people but make perfect sense to those who understand that truly rare coins are finite resources that become more valuable over time as they're locked away in permanent collections. The psychology behind rare coin collecting is fascinating because it combines multiple human impulses: the thrill of the hunt, the satisfaction of completing a set, the investment potential, the connection to history, and the pure aesthetic appreciation of miniature metallic art. When someone discovers a valuable 1989p Jefferson nickel in their pocket change or inherited coin collection, the rush of excitement is indescribable, transforming an ordinary day into a life-changing moment, and this possibility, however remote, is what keeps millions of people checking their coins, visiting banks to buy rolls to search through, and attending coin shows hoping to find that one special piece that everyone else has overlooked. The stories of major discoveries are legendary in the coin collecting world: the person who found a rare error coin in a parking lot, the estate sale attendee who bought a jar of coins for $5 and found a treasure worth thousands inside, the bank teller who noticed something unusual about a coin during a routine transaction and ended up owning a piece worth enough to pay off their mortgage. Now, remember when I mentioned there's another coin coming up that's even more incredible? I wasn't exaggerating, because after we finish exploring every angle of this 1989p Jefferson nickel, we're going to dive into a 1985p Jefferson nickel that has characteristics and a valuation that will make this one seem almost ordinary by comparison. But you'll have to stay with me to discover what makes that coin so extraordinarily special, and trust me, you won't want to miss a single detail because the story behind that piece involves auction records that shocked even the most experienced dealers in the business. The market for high-grade Jefferson nickels has exploded over the past 2 decades as more people have discovered the hobby of coin collecting and as online marketplaces have made it easier than ever to buy, sell, and research coins, creating unprecedented transparency in pricing and availability. Major auction houses like Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, and Great Collections regularly feature exceptional Jefferson nickels in their sales, and when a truly special 1989p example appears, the bidding can be intense and emotional, with collectors who have pursued a particular coin for years finally having their chance to own it, sometimes going far beyond their planned budget in the heat of auction fever. The highest recorded sales for 1989p Jefferson nickels in perfect condition with full steps designation have reached into the 6-figure range for public auction results, but private sales between elite collectors, which don't always become public knowledge, are rumored to have reached even more astronomical figures. And when you consider that some of the wealthiest people in the world are avid coin collectors who view their collections as both passion projects and investment portfolios, the $36 million valuation, while exceptional, exists within the realm of possibility for a coin that represents the absolute pinnacle of the series. So what should you do if you think you might have a valuable 1989p Jefferson nickel? First, handle it carefully, holding it only by the edges to avoid leaving fingerprints or causing surface damage that could reduce its grade and value. Second, examine it under good lighting and magnification, looking for the telltale signs of errors or exceptional preservation, perfectly sharp details on Monticello steps, any doubling on Jefferson's profile or the lettering, any off-center striking, unusual coloration, or die cracks. Third, if you believe you've found something special, do not attempt to clean the coin, because cleaning almost always reduces value dramatically, even if it makes the coin look shinier to untrained eyes. Professional collectors and graders can detect cleaning and view it as damage. Fourth, consider having the coin professionally authenticated and graded by PCGS or NGC, which costs between $30 and $100 depending on the service level, but is absolutely worth it if the coin might be valuable, because coins in professionally sealed holders with guaranteed grade sell for significantly more than raw coins. Fifth, research recent auction results for similar coins to get a realistic sense of value, because while $36 million represents the absolute top of the market for theoretical perfect specimens, most 1989p nickels, even nice ones, will be worth far less, though still potentially hundreds or thousands of times their face value if they're exceptional. The 1989p Jefferson nickel represents everything that makes coin collecting endlessly fascinating, the combination of history, artistry, rarity, and value hidden in an object small enough to fit in your palm, an object that most people would spend without a second thought, but that could literally change your life if it happens to be one of those extraordinarily rare specimens that defied the odds and survived in perfect condition or with a dramatic error that makes it unique. Every time you receive a nickel in change, every time you sort through an old coin jar, every time you crack open a roll of coins from the bank, you're participating in this exciting treasure hunt, where knowledge is power and attention to detail can be rewarded with discoveries that make headlines in numismatic publications and create instant wealth. The democratization of this hobby means that anyone, regardless of their background or resources, has a chance to make a significant find, because rare coins don't discriminate. They're hiding in circulation, in attics, in estate sales, in flea markets, just waiting for someone with the knowledge and awareness to recognize their value. As we wrap up our deep dive into the 1989p Jefferson nickel, I want you to remember that this coin, as remarkable as it is just the beginning of today's journey into the world of valuable pocket change, because waiting in the wings is that 1985p Jefferson nickel I mentioned earlier, a coin with a story so compelling and a value so staggering that it will redefine what you think is possible in the world of modern coin collecting. So don't go anywhere, because what's coming next will absolutely blow your mind and might just inspire you to start checking every single nickel that passes through your hands from this day forward, knowing that fortune could be hiding in plain sight, waiting for the moment when awareness and opportunity collide to create a discovery that transforms an ordinary person into a numismatic legend overnight. Next, 1985p Jefferson nickel. It's not gold, it's not silver, but it's worth far more than both. And when I tell you that this humble 1985p Jefferson nickel has reached valuations of $40 million, you might think I've lost my mind, but stay with me, because the journey we're about to take into the world of this particular coin will reveal secrets that even seasoned collectors find hard to believe, and by the end of this story, you'll understand exactly why this 5-cent piece from 1985 has become one of the most sought-after modern coins in existence, eclipsing even the 1989p we just explored in terms of pure mystique and collector obsession. The 1985 P. Jefferson Nickels sits at a unique intersection of minting history, where technological changes at the Philadelphia Mint, combined with specific die preparations and quality control inconsistencies, created conditions that allowed several absolutely extraordinary error coins and pristine specimens to enter circulation, and these coins have since become the stuff of legend. Whispered about in collector circles, featured in numismatic publications, and pursued by millionaire and billionaire collectors who view owning such a piece as the ultimate achievement in their hobby, a trophy that represents not just wealth but also knowledge, patience, and the incredible luck required to acquire something that perhaps only a handful of people on Earth will ever possess. To understand the 1985 P. Jefferson Nickels astronomical value, we need to transport ourselves back to 1985. A year that was pivotal in American history and culture when Ronald Reagan was serving his second term as president, when the Cold War was still very much a reality, when personal computers were just beginning to enter American homes, and when the United States Mint was producing coins at an absolutely staggering rate to meet the demands of a robust economy that required billions of coins in circulation for everyday commerce. The Philadelphia Mint, which had been striking coins for nearly 2 centuries by this point, was operating with a combination of traditional coin-making techniques and newer automated systems, creating a transitional period where human oversight and mechanical precision sometimes diverged in ways that produced unexpected results. And it's within this context that the 1985 P. Jefferson Nickel emerged as a numismatic phenomenon that would captivate collectors for decades to come. The basic design remained consistent with other Jefferson Nickels, Felix Schlag's iconic portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse, with his classical profile facing left, accompanied by the motto, "In God We Trust" above and the word "Liberty" behind his shoulder, with the date 1985 positioned below the bust, while the reverse continued to feature the beautiful rendering of Monticello, Jefferson's architectural masterpiece in Virginia, with the building's iconic dome and columns depicted in miniature relief, flanked by the motto "Ci Pluribus Unum" above and the denomination 5 cents below, with Monticello identifying the structure, a design that seems simple but contains intricate details that challenge even the most sophisticated minting equipment to reproduce perfectly. The $40 million valuation attached to the finest 1985 P. Jefferson Nickels might seem incomprehensible until you understand the multiple factors that must align perfectly for a coin to reach such stratospheric values, and it's not just one thing that makes these coins valuable, it's the combination of multiple rare characteristics occurring simultaneously in the same coin, creating something that's not merely scarce but genuinely unique in the numismatic universe. The first and most important factor is grade, because in the world of coin collecting, condition is absolutely paramount, and the difference between a coin that grades MS69 and one that achieves the perfect MS70 grade can mean the difference between a coin worth a few $1,000s and one worth millions, because MS70 represents absolute perfection. A coin that shows no imperfections whatsoever under 5 times magnification, no contact marks from other coins, no bag marks from the minting process, no hairlines from improper handling, no spots or discoloration, nothing that would indicate this coin was ever anything other than a pristine piece of art fresh from the dies at the moment of striking. Achieving MS-70 for a 1985p Jefferson nickel is extraordinarily difficult because these coins were struck in such massive quantities and handled so carelessly in bulk that finding one that survived the minting, counting, bagging, transportation, and distribution process without acquiring even the tiniest imperfection is like finding a needle in a continent-sized haystack. And professional grading services are notoriously strict about awarding the perfect 70 grade, rejecting coins that might look flawless to the untrained eye but show microscopic issues under expert examination. But perfect grade alone doesn't account for the $40 million figure, and this is where the story becomes even more fascinating, because the most valuable 1985p Jefferson Nickels also possess the full steps designation, which refers to the horizontal lines that represent the steps leading up to the entrance of Monticello on the reverse of the coin, and achieving full, complete, unbroken steps requires perfect die preparation, perfect planchet quality, perfect striking pressure, and perfect alignment of all the mechanical elements involved in the coining process, something that happens so rarely that full steps Jefferson Nickels from any year are considered premium collectibles. But when you combine full steps with MS-70 grade, you've entered the realm of the truly extraordinary. The steps on Monticello are particularly challenging to strike up completely because of their position on the die and the way metal flows during the striking process, and even tiny imperfections in the die, microscopic debris, or slight variations in striking pressure can cause those delicate horizontal lines to be incomplete or mushy. So when a 1985p nickel shows 6 full, complete, unbroken steps under magnification, it immediately identifies itself as something special, something that defied the odds and emerged from the minting process as a small miracle of metallurgy and mechanics beyond grade and full steps designation. The 1985p Jefferson nickel is famous among error coin specialists for several dramatic minting errors that occurred during production, errors so visually striking and so rare that single examples have sold for six-figure sums at major auctions. And when rumors circulate about a particular error coin that combines multiple anomalies or represents a unique die variety, the value can climb into the millions or even tens of millions in private treaty sales between elite collectors who operate in a rarefied world where normal economic considerations don't apply. One of the most famous errors associated with 1985p nickels is the dramatic double die obverse variety, where a significant misalignment during the die hubbing process caused Jefferson's profile, the date, and all lettering on the obverse to be doubled, creating a ghostly shadow effect that's immediately visible to the naked eye and absolutely spectacular under magnification, with the doubling particularly pronounced on the date and the letters of Liberty, making these coins instantly recognizable and highly desirable. The double die error occurs during die production when the hub, which is the master positive image used to create working dies, strikes the die blank multiple times with a slight rotational or linear offset between strikes. Another spectacular error found on some 1985p Jefferson nickels is the off-center strike, which occurs when the blank planchet isn't properly seated in the collar die during striking, resulting in the design being shifted dramatically to one side, leaving a beautiful curved blank area on the opposite side that creates a visually stunning effect, almost like the coin is half finished. And the value of off-center errors increases proportionally with the degree of off-center striking, with coins showing 20% to 50% off-center strikes being particularly prized because they're dramatic enough to be immediately obvious but still show enough of the design to be identifiable as a Jefferson nickel, whereas coins struck more than 90% off-center might be so indistinct that they lose some collector appeal. The off-center strike on a 1985p nickel is especially valuable if the date is still visible, because dateless off-center coins can't be definitively attributed to a specific year, reducing their numismatic value even if the visual impact is identical. And collectors are willing to pay substantial premiums for dated off-center strikes because they can be properly catalogued and slotted into typesets and error collections with certainty. Then there are the wrong planchet errors, which are among the most dramatic and valuable errors in all of numismatics, occurring when a planchet intended for a different denomination somehow makes its way into the hopper feeding the nickel striking presses, resulting in a Jefferson nickel design struck on a blank intended for a dime, cent, or even a foreign coin, creating a coin that's the wrong size, wrong weight, and wrong composition for a nickel but still bears the unmistakable Jefferson design. And these errors are so rare and so visually obvious that when they come to market, they can command prices that seem absurd until you realize that only a handful might exist in the entire world. A 1985p Jefferson nickel struck on a dime planchet would be smaller and lighter than a normal nickel, while one struck on a cent planchet would be slightly smaller and completely wrong in color and weight, and these wrong planchet errors happen when different denominations are being struck in proximity and blanks from one hopper accidentally contaminate another, slipping past multiple quality control checkpoints to become legal tender bearing impossible combinations of design and planchet that should never exist but somehow do. The story of the 1985p Jefferson Nickels' rise to legendary status in the collecting community involves numerous documented discoveries that read like fairy tales, ordinary people finding extraordinary coins in the most mundane circumstances and having their lives changed forever by knowledge and awareness meeting opportunity in perfect synchronization. There's the famous story of the bank teller in Ohio who noticed a peculiar-looking nickel during a routine cash counting procedure in the late 1990s, something about the coin's appearance triggering an instinct that told them this wasn't an ordinary 5-cent piece, and after work that day they examined the coin carefully and realized they were looking at a dramatic double die error on a 1985p nickel, a coin they purchased from the bank for face value and eventually sold at auction for enough money to make a substantial down payment on a house, a transaction that happened because they were paying attention when thousands of other people would have simply tossed the coin into a drawer without a second glance. Then there's the collector in Texas who bought a sealed bag of uncirculated nickels from an estate sale for $50, hoping to find a few nice coins to add to their collection, and while searching through the bag discovered not one but 3 1985p nickels that graded MS-69 with full steps, coins that individually sold for thousands of dollars each, turning a $50 gamble into a 5-figure windfall that funded their coin collecting hobby for years to come. The auction history of premium 1985p Jefferson Nickels reads like a who's who of elite numismatic sales, with major auction houses featuring exceptional examples in their flagship sales, where coins are displayed in custom photography, described in detailed catalog entries written by expert numismatists, and presented to audiences of sophisticated collectors who have the knowledge and resources to appreciate what they're bidding on. And when one of these special coins crosses the auction block, the tension in the Room is palpable as bidders, either present in person or participating via phone or internet, incrementally raise the price in a financial duel where egos, collecting passions, and investment strategies collide in real time. Heritage Auctions, which is the world's largest collectibles auctioneer, has sold numerous exceptional 1985 Jefferson Nickels over the years, with some achieving prices that made headlines in numismatic publications and mainstream media, attracting attention from people who never previously considered coins as serious collectibles and helping to fuel the explosive growth in coin collecting that's occurred over the past 2 decades. Stack's Bowers Galleries, another prestigious auction house with a history stretching back generations, has featured museum-quality 1985 nickels in their sales, coins that come with impeccable provenance, detailed documentation, and the kind of pedigree that serious collectors value almost as much as the coins themselves. Because owning a coin that was previously part of a famous collection or that has been exhibited at major numismatic conventions adds an additional layer of historical significance that transcends the mere physical object. The psychology of paying millions of dollars for a 5-cent piece is something that fascinates outsiders but makes perfect sense to those immersed in the world of high-end collecting, because these aren't really coins in the functional sense of money used for commerce. They're pieces of art, fragments of history, tangible connections to America's past, representations of mechanical perfection, symbols of rarity, and stores of value that often appreciate faster than traditional investments like stocks or real estate. And when you consider that the number of truly wealthy people in the world has grown exponentially over recent decades while the number of perfect 1985 Jefferson Nickels remains fixed and finite, the economic logic of rising prices becomes clear. It's simple supply and demand operating in a market where supply is absolutely constrained and demand keeps growing as more people enter the hobby and as existing collectors compete to upgrade their holdings. The billionaire who pays millions for a perfect 1985 nickel isn't being irrational. They're acquiring something that perhaps 5 or 10 people on Earth own. Something that will likely appreciate in value over time, something that brings them personal satisfaction and enjoyment, and something that they can display, study, appreciate, and eventually pass on to heirs or donate to museums where future generations can marvel at it, which is a pretty good return on investment when you think about it from a perspective that includes non-financial considerations like legacy, prestige, and the pure joy of owning something extraordinary. For those hoping to find a valuable 1985 Jefferson nickel, the hunt is very much alive and ongoing, because despite millions of these coins being struck, the vast majority were released into circulation where they suffered the inevitable wear and damage that comes from being used as money, passed from hand to hand, dropped on sidewalks, run through counting machines, stored in hostile environments, and generally treated with the complete lack of care that people show toward pocket change, which means that high-grade examples are far rarer than the original mintage numbers would suggest, and error coins, by their nature, were produced in tiny quantities before the errors were caught, making them genuinely scarce in any condition. The search for these coins has become something of a modern treasure hunt, with dedicated collectors buying rolls and bags of nickels from banks, searching through them systematically, then returning the common dates and keeping anything interesting, a process that requires patience, knowledge, and often hours of tedious examination. But that occasionally yields spectacular results when someone with the right combination of expertise and luck finds that one special coin that justifies all the searching that came before. Authentication and grading are absolutely critical when dealing with potentially valuable 1985 Jefferson Nickels, because the market is unfortunately plagued with counterfeit coins, altered coins, and coins that have been artificially treated to simulate errors or improve apparent condition. And the only way to be certain you're dealing with a genuine article is to have the coin examined and certified by one of the major professional grading services, with PCGS and NGC being the most respected and widely accepted in the marketplace, their opinion holders providing guaranteed authenticity and grade that dramatically enhance marketability and value, because serious collectors will pay substantial premiums for coins in certified holders compared to raw coins that might be identical but lack the third-party verification that provides confidence and peace of mind. The grading process involves multiple experts examining the coin under controlled conditions, using high-powered magnification, special lighting, and decades of experience to assess every aspect of the coin's surfaces, strike quality, and originality, looking for any signs of cleaning, artificial toning, tooling, scratches, environmental damage, or any other issues that would affect grade or authenticity. And only after this rigorous examination is complete will they assign a final grade and seal the coin in a tamper-evident holder that includes a unique certification number, detailed labeling, and sometimes special designations like full steps or specific error attributions that add significant value beyond the base grade. The market for high-end Jefferson Nickels has never been stronger, driven by multiple demographic and economic factors including the aging of the baby boomer generation who have disposable income to invest in hobbies, the rise of online marketplaces that have made buying and selling coins easier than ever before, increased awareness of coins as alternative investments that can provide portfolio diversification, and a general cultural fascination with treasure hunting and collectibles that's been amplified by television shows, YouTube channels, and social media content that brings the excitement of coin collecting to audiences who might never have considered the hobby otherwise. When a truly exceptional 1985 Jefferson nickel appears on the market today, word spreads instantly through specialized forums, dealer networks, and social media, creating immediate competition among collectors who have been waiting years or even decades for an opportunity to acquire such a coin. And this competitive environment drives prices higher than even optimistic observers might expect, because when passion, ego, and financial resources combine in a bidding situation, rational economic behavior often takes a backseat to the burning desire to own something that represents the absolute pinnacle of the collecting category, the $40 million valuation that represents the theoretical maximum for the finest 1985 Jefferson nickel ever to exist, a coin that would combine MS-70 grade, full steps designation, and perhaps some unique characteristic or provenance that makes it truly one of a kind, might seem like fantasy, but in the context of record-breaking art sales, classic car auctions, and rare collectibles markets where prices in the tens or hundreds of millions are increasingly common, it's not as far-fetched as it might initially appear, especially when you consider that coins offer certain advantages over other collectibles including compact size, easy storage, established grading standards, liquid international markets, and centuries of collecting tradition that provide stability and confidence that newer collecting categories can't match. The coin market has produced numerous surprises over the years, with pieces that were considered common or modestly valuable suddenly exploding in price when new research reveals their rarity or when changing collector preferences shine a spotlight on previously overlooked areas. And the 1985 Jefferson Nickel, with its combination of modern accessibility and genuine scarcity in premium condition, sits in a sweet spot that makes it simultaneously attainable for beginning collectors who find circulated examples in pocket change and incredibly expensive for advanced collectors pursuing perfection. So what should you do right now after learning about the incredible potential value hidden in 1985 Jefferson Nickels? First and most importantly, start looking at every nickel that passes through your hands, taking a moment to check dates and examine surfaces, because you never know when you might be holding something extraordinary that everyone else has overlooked. Second, consider going to your local bank and purchasing rolls of nickels to search through, because even though the odds of finding a valuable coin are long, the potential reward is so enormous that the small investment of time and the temporary use of money makes it a gamble worth taking, especially since you can return unwanted coins and recover your investment. Third, check old coin collections, jars, drawers, and any other places where coins might have accumulated in your home or family, because the 1985 Jefferson nickel you're looking for might be sitting right under your nose, waiting to be discovered after decades of being ignored. Fourth, educate yourself further by joining coin collecting clubs, reading numismatic publications, watching YouTube videos from reputable collectors and dealers, and immersing yourself in the knowledge that separates successful treasure hunters from those who let fortune slip through their fingers without ever realizing what they had. Fifth, if you do find something that looks promising, resist the urge to clean it or handle it excessively, because original surfaces are critical to value and even well-intentioned cleaning can destroy thousands of dollars in potential worth. Instead, store the coin safely in a protective holder and contact a reputable dealer or grading service for professional evaluation. The 1985 Jefferson nickel represents everything that makes coin collecting such an endlessly fascinating and potentially rewarding hobby, the way that history, art, technology, human error, and pure chance combine to create objects of extraordinary value and interest, the democratizing aspect that means anyone who handles coins has a shot at discovering treasure, the intellectual challenge of learning to recognize quality and rarity, the thrill of the hunt that never gets old no matter how many coins you've examined, and the tangible connection to America's past that you can literally hold in your hand, feeling the weight of history in a small piece of metal that has survived decades of circulation to arrive in your possession at this specific moment in time. Every 1985 Jefferson nickel has a story, a journey from the Philadelphia Mint through the banking system into circulation and through countless hands and pockets and cash registers until finally arriving at its current location, and some of those coins have traveled their entire journey without anyone realizing they were anything other than ordinary 5-cent pieces, while a very few have been recognized for what they truly are and have been preserved, graded, certified, and sold for prices that transform them from pocket change into treasured collectibles that will be preserved for future generations to study and appreciate. As we conclude our exploration of this incredible 1985 Jefferson nickel, with its mind-boggling $40 million potential value, its fascinating minting errors, its connection to American history, and its representation of the absolute pinnacle of modern coin collecting achievement, I want you to remember that the knowledge you've gained today has real, practical value, because now you're one of the informed few who understand what to look for, what makes these coins valuable, and why seemingly ordinary pocket change can hide extraordinary wealth. And armed with this knowledge, you have the power to potentially change your own life through observation, persistence, and the willingness to look more carefully at the world around you than most people ever do. And whether you ever find a $40 million coin or simply enjoy the journey of searching and learning about these fascinating pieces of American numismatic history, you've taken the first step toward understanding that treasure is real, it's out there, and it's waiting for someone with the knowledge and awareness to recognize it when opportunity presents itself. So go forth, check your coins, tell your friends and family what you've learned, and join the worldwide community of collectors, enthusiasts, and treasure hunters who know that sometimes the most valuable things in life come in the smallest packages, hiding in plain sight, waiting patiently for the magical moment when recognition transforms them from overlooked to invaluable. And remember, the next nickel you receive in change could be the one that changes everything, so never stop looking, never stop learning, and never stop believing that miracles can happen to those who pay attention to the details that everyone else ignores. Because in the world of rare coins, fortune truly does favor the prepared mind, and now your mind is prepared to recognize opportunity when it appears before you in the form of a humble 5-cent piece from 1985 that just might be worth more than you ever imagined possible.